Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today's video is a throwback to the last video I did on screening a tenant. Part of that screening process is checking references, and there's some information I wanted to share with you on when you're checking references. And so I did a quick tutorial on it, and it's 10 minutes because, like I said, I don't like long videos and I want to get you the information in a short time, so hopefully you can use it. So just looking at this, checking rental references. This is the process we're going to use when we check a reference. References matter because typically in a rental relationship, the only information you get outside of whatever that person tells you is going to be the references and maybe some of the financial information. References are the only people that have actually interacted with this person that you're going to meet before you actually rent your place to them, that can say, hey, this person is, straight up what they say, or this person is not, you don't want to mess with them. So you always want to know that any outside information is very valuable about an applicant. Jay-Z made the line, men lie, women lie, numbers don't. And that's very true because that information is going to let you know some insight. It is not the best source of information, but sometimes you get lucky and you get someone that talks and they'll tell you a lot about the person, or you learn something new that maybe says, I do or don't want to deal with this person based on their references. You need to assume everything an applicant tells you is a lie. That does not mean everything an applicant tells you is a lie, but if you take that mindset that everything an applicant tells you is a lie, then that'll give you the right mindset as far as if you should follow up with this person or if you should check on their references. You need to assume that they're lying to you, and your goal is essentially to catch them in the lie, even though they may not be lying, but that's the mindset you need to have. And you want to take every bit of information you can get from an incorruptible source. People are not an incorruptible source, but it's better than nothing, and you don't want to make the assumptions just because the person seems nice. So how many references should you get? There are a couple of different references. First is landlord references, which I like to get at least 2 to 3 landlord references if possible. Next is friends and family references. I like to get 2 to 3 friends and family references. They're not so much for references. They're more so that if I have a problem getting in touch with my tenant, no one likes for you to call their family and friends and try to reach out to them. So I ask for those references, and I do follow up with them. Financial references or job references. Those are good for seeing if their income looks like it's going to be stable. Additional financial references. I've talked about the services that we use, like the bank summary service that summarizes their bank data to give us financial information, and it's from an incorruptible source because it comes directly from their bank. Like I said, I like to get 3 references of each if possible, and that shouldn't be too hard, especially when you're in the early process. How to check a reference, the do's and don'ts. Don't call the phone number given to you for a job reference. If the landlord reference has a phone number, but they stay at a larger building, I try to look up that building information and call from a Google search on that building. If it's a small mom and pop landlord, then you're going to have to use their number, but I'm going to show you what to do with that. Look up the number if it's a larger place or if it's their job. When you call a job, you want to ask for the manager before you say why you call, because what sometimes happens is people that work there will know that so-and-so is looking for an apartment, and they know that a reference is coming, and another person at their job will give that reference even though they're not the person that actually can give the reference. Once you verify you're talking to a manager, and ask them if they verify references before giving them the name. You want to make sure you're talking to the right person and they can give you the information you need before you give them a name, because you don't want to tip that person off of, hey, help this person out or whatever. So ask first if they're the manager and if they're the one that verifies references, or do you need to talk to HR or whatever. Now, typically there are only 2 questions that I ask. I try to get open-ended questions because I don't want to give them a question where it's just like yes or no. I try to ask open-ended questions. So I say, how have they been since renting the unit? That opens it up to say, oh, they've been okay. They paid on time. They haven't had a problem, or they've been all right, and this, that, and the other. You'll get open-ended questions. It's not a yes or no question. And then the other one is, and this can also be used for their employer. So you can say, how have they been since working there? And then they'll give you an open-ended answer. And that kind of shows you their stability and things like that. Next is knowing this person now. Would you rent or would you hire them again, depending on a job or a landlord reference. That and why. That's going to give you some insight into what they're thinking. Have I now, having known the person, what I would do. So that's very good information that will help you. A good reference versus a bad reference. A good reference knows the tenant. They can speak to their work or time as a tenant or an employee, so they know them. They can also give additional information on the tenant. Some people get very chatty and like to talk, and they'll tell you additional information that you may not have gotten. They also can verify. This is very important for landlords. If you're dealing with a mom and pop landlord and you can't verify that this is actually their landlord, then you ask verified questions. You should have these questions from your pre-approval application that says, what's your current rent? Where are you staying at? So when you call, you can say, hey, just in case, what's the address of the place they're staying at? They should be able to give that to you if they're a mom and pop. So if they let their friends be their reference, their friend might not remember where their exact address is. Also ask them to verify what the rent is. A mom and pop landlord should know how much the rent is on that property. Their friend might not remember or might not have found out how much they actually pay in rent. And that can sometimes throw them off and let you know that this is a friend and not an actual reference. A bad reference is someone who has no knowledge of the unit. They don't know exactly what you're talking about, or they have very short knowledge of the tenant or an employee. They're like, I know they work here, but I don't know anything about them. So I would try, and if you have to, go back and say, hey, I wasn't able to verify this particular reference. Can you give me another one? And put it on them to give you another reference. What if they have no reference? An old school way to get a reference when they have none, and that's to do an on-site visit. I used to do this a lot when I was starting out. I would actually set up a time, go to their property and say, hey, I need to check out your unit. We need to do an on-site visit. Here's the funny thing. When you do an on-site visit, you'll get to see how clean they are. You'll see how their kids act. You'll see if anyone else lives in the unit. If it seems like the unit has stuff that you would not go, you need to assume this unit is how they're going to treat your unit. Now, let me tell you one quick thing. They never clean up. They never clean up the unit or prep for you coming. How that unit is. Now, if it's clean, they probably keep it clean all the time. If it's not clean, or if you see a bunch of stuff shoved into a closet, always check a closet just to look, then that's probably how they're going to keep your unit. For some reason, they never clean up when they know you're coming over. And that's whether you set an appointment, they don't clean up. So this stuff is important. References are your only access to an applicant's true life, other than what they tell you. In my opinion, I would never skip this step. I would always check references. I would write down on their application or in the notes that you keep with their application how you felt about that reference interaction. Did it feel like it was good? Did it feel like it was bad? So you can keep it for future reference. And then you can go back to it and look at which tenants were good and how were their references. Which tenants were bad, how were their references. You want to keep this info in the tenant file. And again, if you have any questions or comments about this, please leave a comment below. I'll be happy to answer, and I hope I can help you. Till next time, I wish you the best. And this is Art with Rent to Wealth, signing off.